waiting to go to the dry cleaners.
Good morning, it is 10:02 a.m. on Friday, May 26th. Call this meeting of the Wichita County Commissioners Court to order. If everyone would please rise, Commissioner Mahler is going to give our invitation.
Thank you, Judge. Pray with me, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today thankful of the tremendous blessing that you have bestowed upon us to live in this, the greatest country in the history of the world. Lord, that is true because so many people have done so many things and made sacrifices to make this a great country, including our military, our fallen heroes that we're going to celebrate their memory on Monday. Lord, we're so thankful of the many people that work very hard to make the dreams come true of lots of people, and we just pray that that will continue. Pray that we can come together and come to consensus and move this country forward in the way that it should be. Lord, I'd pray for this court this morning as we make decisions that it would be something that would be pleasing to you. We'd like to ask your blessings on our county family, those who are ill or have loved ones who are ill. If you wrap your arms around them, we would certainly appreciate that. Please protect our military, protect our first responders, protect the people that work very hard to keep us safe. Lord, we ask these things in the name of your precious Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. And join us for the pledge of allegiance to the U.S. flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right, everyone may be seated. Do we have any presentations this morning that I'm not aware of? Okay. All right, it is currently 10:04 a.m. We'll open up the meeting for time of public comment. As a reminder, we ask that everyone keep their comments limited to 5 minutes or less, and no action can be taken on any items brought up during public comment. Do we have any public comment this morning? Do we have anyone via Zoom? Okay, it is still 10:04 a.m. and public comment is closed. Means we will move on to the consent agenda. And I understand we may want to move consent agenda item number 2 down to general business because we want to amend that. Is that
Please.
correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to pull consent agenda item number 2 down to general business, unless there's objection. Okay.
On 3, Jeff, is none of that's for precinct 2?
Yeah, bear with me 1 second. I got it right here. No, on item 3 is 3, 4, 5, and EMO.
What are we doing?
This was, well, half of this was work he did for precinct 4, dirt work he did for precinct 4 with the excavator.
Sort of different.
That's half of it. And
Bills on it.
the mine and Barry's motor graders are both in there in precinct 3 and 4, and then EMO is generator stuff is what it was. We've gotten everything. Lee and John coordinated and made all the tower stops and got all the verified all the serial numbers, and then got all that, got the scan cards put on the generators, and so that's basically what it was.
Okay.
He cleaned up the DAF problem we had with my motor grader.
And mine.
He got the radio communications working for the, what's the system, Jeff?
Yeah.
It's the maintenance
Cat
monitoring.
port
It's the monitoring situation, and which should help us to alleviate some of those problems. But he cleaned up several pieces of equipment on
Right.
that, so that was a lot of what it was too, so.
The amount that's on the item is, we have two different amounts in the attached information.
And then look right here, Judge.
So we've got the invoice, which has an amount of $13,032.54. We have the time activity sheet that's got an amount of $12,656.25. And additionally, Nikki, to your question, the invoice does say that the summary for precinct 5 includes the item for precinct 2.
Right. I thought there was something. I thought I had approved one that was on there.
Well, the precinct 2 is probably the dozer work that precinct 4 is paying for, the dozer.
It was for one inspection. It was a $65, there was a $65 fee for a gen set inspection on the precinct 2 yard, so that's probably something.
Oh, that's your
Generator.
Generator, yeah.
Jim, the difference is $376.29, which is that first subtotal on that in top of the invoice. So I'm not sure why it's not on the detail.
Okay. Well, maybe because it's itemized here on the actual invoice, and then the others were a collection. Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Just because that one's included on that precinct 2 yard, I think we're included on the.
On the agenda.
On the agenda. Just to cover it.
Mhm.
So I'd list 2 with 2, 3, 4, and 5
Okay.
on that.
Is there not any
Well,
Well, it says on
precinct
the,
2 dozer?
I think it's included in 5 because it's the maintenance
Oh.
program.
it says on this note, see the attached time activity sheet for details, a summary for precinct 5.
Includes.
Includes the
Okay.
item for precinct 2 and the items for
Oh, okay.
PM,
Yeah.
except for the 980s listed separately.
So I think we're okay
Yeah.
to not have precinct 2 in there,
All right.
because that work is included for precinct 5.
Okay.
Okay. So we are moving item 2.
Yep.
Scrolling, we'll see it up here.
Hey Nancy, can you reach out
And-
to Nava and see if he's joining us this week?
On item 3, I did have some, Judge, some tweaks I wanted to do on that, yesterday in just talking with the fella on this agreement.
Oh, on number 4, on the
Number,
vending agreement?
number 4, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I used 2 of the machines this week, and we went over 2.
Well, do we want to pull that one down too?
Yes,
To discuss
please.
it? Okay.
That's making the consent pretty small, so I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve it.
Prove what's left of the consent, I'll second.
Okay.
We're not approving a lot.
The ghost of the consent.
Yeah, consent agenda, yeah. All right, so the motion has been made by Commissioner Fincannon, seconded by Commissioner Beecham, to approve the consent agenda with items 2 and 4 moved off to general business. Do we have any public comment on this? Okay, motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Well, since we've been talking about it, let's go ahead and take up item number 2 on the consent agenda that was moved. Motion to approve ADS quote for various sizes of culverts for precinct number 4 at a cost of $7,686.60 to be paid from Fund 224 with lines determined by the county auditor.
And I would like to, if we can, just to change that to precinct 4 and 2 and add my other, y'all were all handed a list of culverts that I wanted to add to that, just to add that total to it. The reason for this is keep all the shipping costs down, get it all ordered at one time while we have an order going in.
Yeah, I wished I'd have known we were doing that. I probably got in on that action too.
I had one of these already on his order.
Do
but
you have, Mark, do you have,
I need to check with Leon and he's off today.
I mean, nothing's, I mean, I'm not under any kind of rush. I'm just checking
we
our
hold it for a-
inventory.
The only one the reason I was trying to get, one of these is for a home that's being built, customers buying it, not the county. But it's just being paid for by a customer.
Can we
But-
possibly,
Push it till Monday.
well, or just a,
How do you don't have any idea what
no,
size it is?
at this point, no, I don't, but can we
Well,
approve
if
for an
you
up
look
to
right here,
amount to be,
look right here,
for culverts
sure.
to be purchased from all 4 precincts?
And you get free freight for over $37.50. And
Yeah.
right now, you can hardly buy 2 or 3 without getting over that dollar amount.
Yeah. Well, we need to take advantage of
Zero
the
mail.
shipping
Yeah, if we
deal.
can put a,
Can we just do a, up to amount to be purchased from all 4 precincts based on this quote? Okay.
Do Barry, do y'all wanna throw some money?
You
Y'all
might-
wanna-
Yeah, and
What
I
kind of
need to
total?
I need to check and see where we are.
We're gonna have to have a dollar amount right now, though. Do you wanna put $8,000
Unless you push it
on
off
there?
a week, or,
Huh?
unless you push it off, but yeah.
it's not killing me if we wait, turned in the order.
The only one that
next
matters
time
to
we
me
meet.
is that one that's for that home build, and that would be a sooner than later type deal, but that's why I was
Well,
trying to get
they are, when I spoke to him at West Texas, he said that they are, he's able to ship. I mean, he doesn't have to wait on
Yeah.
manufactured at all. His yard's
Can we just
full.
set it at 40 and for all 4 precincts, and that way we're under the 50?
Sure.
Yeah, I can check and
Aggregate.
find out. We do that on our signs a lot. We'll split a load and it makes it a lot more economical for
Yeah.
everybody.
And,
So just change it to all 4 precincts and 40,000?
yeah,
Up
that
to
way I'll,
40,000.
Yeah,
And then take out the specific fund.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Right.
okay.
Mine's not gonna change on that, so. That'd be my motion then. Change it
Cheryl,
to
do we need to put all of the precinct funds on there, or just with lines determined by county auditor?
It would be better to have all 4 funds.
Okay, let's do that. Alright, so,
Yeah.
motion by Commissioner Kincannon is to approve ADS quote for various sizes of culverts for for precinct 1, 2, 3, and 4 at a cost up to $40,000 to be paid from Fund 221, 222, 223, and 224 with lines determined by the county auditor. That's the motion by Commissioner Kincannon. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Do we have any public comment on this item? All right, the motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. All right, and then item number 4 from the consent agenda that was brought down, motion to authorize county judge to sign vending service agreement with Cantu for services at county facilities.
And I didn't read that final agreement. Is it John, Nancy, that has been calling on us about any of the tweaks on the machines? What's the boy's name? I told him yesterday, Judge, that to let us know about, only the lobby here and the LEC have the fast food or warmed food. He was gonna get with Mark and Ricky, they need to put that, microwave in. The break room has one, and then employees that use it know to go in there, I guess, but the public wouldn't. And we need to put it somewhere. But I don't want them to get discouraged or lose money till we get underway. And I told him that I'd like them to bring that forward in the event that happened. So I'm not worried about the LEC. They'll really lean on that machine. But I just, until it got caught on here, I don't think they would approach us. But I wanted him to know he could approach us, and I just wanted to make sure that language was such that he can approach us and ask us to consider maybe waiving the commission on discarded food
On the food items?
for a period of time, the first 90 days or whatever the case be. I just wanted him to have that ability.
We don't get a commission on we only get a commission on the net sales, not the food itself.
No, it's individualized. It has each one pays differently. Drinks but food I think is like as high as 25%.
That is not the way this is written. It says not later than the 14th day of each month, Cantu's Vending Service will submit a check to the County of Wichita for 19% commission on our net sales, along with the sales report verifying our numbers.
Let's see.
It's going to be paragraph 6 on the first page of the vending service agreement.
Nancy, we'd have to look at that. Judge, I knew I saw that in the
I think that,
bid.
I'll need to pull it up. I thought that was for the non-winning bid.
And I could be confused.
But I'm not-
I thought they were itemized.
Either way, they need to work. They're currently not working, that's a problem. Our poor commissioner was without Diet Coke for hours.
Do what?
Said our poor building commissioner was without Diet Coke for a while, and I had to grab him
Going
one
into
to calm him
withdrawals.
down.
Well,
'cause
now, Mark,
he
he
was getting the shake.
explained one, I didn't know who he was talking about, but he gave us a report on the machine that not clicking right or catching right. And then I had a problem, same thing, but with the giving change. One of Annette's employees had trouble, and it was messing up on her, and then I come in and did it behind her, and it gave us both our deals, but we couldn't figure out what it charged us to do that.
Yeah.
And then he fixed, there was a wire jamming the coin return, and it got pushed or discombobulated during the transfer, and come and fix that. He told me about that one.
So what is the cost of a drink?
Oh, the cost of the drink, like if you bought, well, I noticed this on Candy Bar, $1.50, $1.75 was the stickered price, but it only charged me $1.50.
Well, see, when I finally did get a drink, I got one on the upstairs machine for $1.50 on my credit card, and one in the downstairs machine yesterday for $2, no change back.
Same drink.
Yeah, so using coin.
It depends on how much loss they've had that day, what they got.
No,
So-
it's just not calibrated correctly is what it is.
Yeah, so I
Because,
used $2 coins and got no change back. So that's what, I don't understand what the charge is.
yeah, no, it's
Because it's
just,
not listed prices.
On their bid, they listed the prices, 20-ounce bottle drinks are $2.
Okay.
But the machine, it doesn't actually say,
Uh-uh.
because I don't use vending machines, so But
It does
They
say
need to
that
have-
the price is higher,
I'm
sure.
checking, I'm making sure that they actually work.
well, yeah, but I mean, there should be a price listing on each item so people know what they're gonna
You would
spend.
think, but there's getting to be more and more vending machines across the country that I've been to that
I'm trying.
they got a credit card slot, they're in a price anywhere, and you're like, well, hope it ain't too bad.
You gotta playing the lottery for you.
I mean,
You
they're
get
like.
the $5 crackers or the dollar crackers?
And please don't steal my credit card data.
Very slow.
But I think that they've been real responsive trying to work out any of those kinks, and I can get him to double check. I don't know if there's a difference between a card use and a cash use. I don't
You
know
would think
that.
the card use would cost more.
You would think that
And
would
it
be
may
the
have just
case.
been a
And you think
placeholder charge,
They did say that there would be a
$1.50.
10-cent if you used a card.
Okay, so
Well,
that's
I
really
got
what
a
it's-
reduction though in using the card.
I know Morgan said that she did too. I don't know.
Somebody might have programmed it backward.
Yeah, but the commission is 19% from every product sold.
Everyone, okay, so it's just straight across the board. But it's not, it wasn't, some not paying commission. Everything paid, everything paid.
Canteen that have different.
Okay, okay.
So as of right now, we're still having the same problems we were having with the other vendor.
So we didn't solve anything.
Well, I mean, in fairness,
Yeah, we
we
had-
had one for years and we've had one for 4 days, so.
Yeah, I know. But give them time
We got
to,
some bugs to work out.
give them time to work out their bugs.
Yeah.
We're
But-
running a $50 million enterprise and we're having problems with Diet Coke.
But the only,
Some things are important.
I agree.
that was the only thing is I just, if there was a transition period needed, I don't think that they'll even ask that, but I just wanted us aware of that fact, and maybe the agreement already allows for them to come to the table, I don't know, but I just, if they have to start throwing away 80% of the food that expires in the deal until it catches on, and I don't want them to take away that machine from us, thinking, well, when we didn't give it a fair try.
Well, you gotta think,
So-
Jeff, that's on their net sales.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, if they're throwing it away, that's not their net sales.
No, because
So-
they're already getting paid for cost.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think
I
we're
think-
good either
Okay,
way.
good
So-
enough then.
Because it's not gross sales.
Talked about
it's
a
net sales,
microwave,
So
they-
they're already getting paid for their cost.
Okay.
Are they supplying a cart to put that microwave on? or-
Yes, they would have the cabinet and
Okay.
everything. I just told him to make sure, he showed Ricky size-wise and otherwise what he was thinking about before they did anything, just to, because he said there's 20 inches, I think, left there or something, I can't remember, and
Yeah.
he thought the counter cabinet was a little bigger than that, but, so I said, just double check before y'all pull
Okay.
the trigger.
And I know if you'll contact my wife, she'll make sure I go by there and clean it every day, so. Won't be a problem.
But I did see in that report that there were employees that had gotten chips and a drink and a hot sandwich and sat down at the tables out there at lunchtime. I saw 2 so far do that, and I hadn't ever saw that before, so that's good. Now that you can get that kind of food there, so.
I make a motion to authorize Judge to sign vending service agreement.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion from Commissioner Fincannon, seconded by Commissioner Watts to authorize the county judge to sign the vending service agreement. Do we have any public comment on this item? All right, the motion's before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. All right, going to now our items of general business. Number 1, review and approve the regular bills for payment. Order county treasurer to disperse payroll and bill payments within 72 hours by U.S. mail, FedEx, UPS, or electronically unless directed otherwise, or may be picked up and ledgered in the treasurer's office.
So moved.
So
Second.
All right, we've got a motion by Commissioner Beecham, seconded by Commissioner Mahler. Any public comment on this? All right, all those in favor, the motion's for us, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. General business item number 2, presentation by Nick Hardwick from Enterprise on their fleet management services. Mr. Hardwick, good to see you again.
Good to see you again as well. Thank you, Judge and Commissioners and the county staff. Appreciate you all having me. So today I'm going to give you all an overview of Enterprise, who we are as a business, and some of the work we're doing with other counties and other government entities throughout the state, as well as a very rough high-level analysis of your current fleet that y'all have today, and really what I consider to be next steps to continue to explore a partnership with the county. Give you all some scope of what we do. So everybody's very familiar with our rental car business, most likely, but the fleet management side, I specialize working with government entities. We have almost about 40 counties in the state that we work with today, about 200 plus municipalities and various other government entities that we work with. And our job is simply help you leverage Enterprise's size, buying power, and expertise to operate the newest, most cost-efficient fleet that we possibly can, and translate some of our philosophies and abilities into really helping y'all refresh your fleet on a more regular basis, keep it fiscally and operationally more efficient than it historically has been. Those are a few of the counties that we work with. Harris is our biggest in the state we work with, but
We don't talk about them.
I know. You're still with their dirty word around here for some reason. Anyways, but the something like Kaufman, Erath, Hunt, Harrison are a few of the other kind of northish Texas area counties that we work with. Work with Burke-Burnett, which is obviously residing within the county as well. But pretty much all these entities are doing the same thing. They're buying vehicles, running them for a period of time. I call resuscitating those vehicles and running them a little bit longer, which based on data, I suppose, is kind of similar to how the county is operating today. Usually decision to replace is very capital driven at times, to access to capital or what funding is looking like in each given year. And what we really try to do is help you learn how to spend money in a different way than the county historically has, in a way that we can stretch our dollars further and be able to replace vehicles on a more regular basis. So when we talk about fleet management, so we have 2 primary awards in Texas that most entities tend to piggyback off of. We have about half a dozen others as well, but these are the 2 primary ones, TIPS and Sourcewell. And these are fleet management awards. They're broad by nature. And when I say fleet management, it covers everything. We can help you acquire, we can set up funding mechanisms, maintenance, fuel, resale, disposition, driver safety, telematics, kind of really everything I call soup to nuts of owning and operating a fleet of vehicles. And why we're so good at this, to give you an idea, Enterprise is one of the largest privately held family-owned businesses in the world today. We actually manage the largest privately held and managed fleet in the world, about 2.1 million vehicles under management as a business. And really, we have a lot of size and scope of what we do. We really try to translate that to the clients that we work with. A little fun fact, Enterprise, we're named after USS Enterprise. A little fun fact if you're a history buff. And the reason that's important is just kind of the conservative nature of how we approach working with the government from a fiscal conservability to be able to execute this and put long-term plans in place, not just look at what can we do this year or next year, but really forward-looking, for the next decade, what we can do in a way, continually update that plan over a period of time.
So what happens to Starship?
What's that?
Wasn't named
That's Starship. Our founder,
Wasn't
Jack.
that far in the future.
Yeah, Jack. Yeah, when the future came back and figured it out, like Back to the Future, right? Our founder Jack Taylor flew planes off the Enterprise in World War II, got out of it, bought 7 cars back in the 50s, and now we're $35 billion a year business roughly. His granddaughter runs the business right now, so it's pretty unique. I've been with him for 20 years now. This is my 20th year of the business. Been in this sector, the government space, for about 15 of those years, or the last 15 years. So feel pretty privileged to work for him. So I would like to give you just a real quick industry update. I don't know if y'all are aware there's a vehicle shortage going on out there today. You may or may not have read or heard about that, which the reason that is really important to municipal government and the county governments as well is just the ability to go out and source vehicles. Vehicle prices are on the rise. They've dramatically increased, somewhere between 10 to 25%, depending on which vehicle you're actually talking about. And so when you're trying to plan for your budgeting, and maybe you plan for a budget to replace vehicles a couple of years in advance, when we get up to that time, what we're finding is we're having to spend more money over and above the capital budget we put in place, and it's making it very challenging for a lot of government entities to be able to execute upon their plan, and they're having to back off their acquisitions. And there's really 5 main factors that are impacting that. Most people have read about the chip shortage that's going on. There's a raw goods shortage that's going on as well, that's continuing. It's impacting steel and everything else, which is across all sorts of industries that are impacted by that. There's labor shortages, which is impacting a lot of government entities as well, ability to attract, hire, and retain quality employees. There's a trucking shortage, truck drivers and trucks out there, as well as a rail car shortage. And all those things have come together in this little perfect storm to impact the vehicle industry, and really make it also challenging for the OEMs, the manufacturers, to produce vehicles and keep up with the demand that's going on and the growth that we're seeing. In Texas especially, we've seen some incredible growth, economic growth in the state, and that's making it even more challenging in Texas also. What that's really translating to is, again, higher vehicle prices and the time to actually get vehicles. We used to, pre-COVID as I call it, it'd take us about 5 days to go out and locate a vehicle at a proper government buy. And it's taken us up to almost 30 days in some cases to find the right vehicle without going out and overpaying for it. That just shows you how short the inventory is. And when you look at dealer supply out there, and some manufacturers are impacted more than the others, but that because there's short supply, obviously it's increasing those prices as well. And so part of our job is really help analyze the options out there. So what we bring to the table is we're going to help you look. If you run a Ford, if you run a Chevy, if you run a Ram, what is the lowest cost ownership truck for that given year that we're operating in? I always tell everybody we're in the advice business, not the decision-making business. So my job is to come out and give you advice, and I might tell you this year you should run a Ram, next year a Chevy, but you're like, my God, how am I run a Ford? That's okay. That's not our decision to make. Our job is simply give you advice, and we execute upon the decisions of the individual commissioners as what makes sense for you in your precinct as well. Also, really helping us track down how the money is being spent. I think data collection is a very laborious activity at times. Be able to know where are all the dollars going. Hey, what have I spent on this vehicle month to date, year to date, life to date over this period of time? There's a lot of data coming in. Be able to track and retain that is very challenging. That's part of our job to do that, so that on an annualized basis we can go out and help you look at, hey, what have we spent as a whole, and how can we make some changes into the future that are going to help us improve upon what we've done in the past as well. And that's all through analytics. And at the end of the day, we're an analytics company, and we're analyzing that information and executing upon it. And it's really based on what I call, come on. Let me try that again. It's working. Let's see if it goes again. But it should pop up in just a second. But I call it cycling strategy. And cycling strategy is knowing when to buy and when to sell a vehicle, so we can capitalize on resale of a vehicle, and get out of it before we have major repairs starting to happen. Because usually what happens with most government entities, they run a vehicle, they hit a pain point of that vehicle, or it gives them enough pain that we got to get rid of that vehicle. And at that point in time, you're stuck with a decision. Either one, I'm selling a vehicle that's broke down, really not worth anything, or I'm dumping a lot of money into an older asset. And we believe both those decisions, we've taken the vehicle past its ideal cycle point. Our job is to help identify what are the points of time where it makes good sense for us to turn that vehicle over. I'm going to plug into this a little bit differently because the wireless thing doesn't seem to be doing its thing.
Our device has got an early start on
On
the
the
long
weekend.
weekend.
Well, the internet's been a little slow this morning. I don't know how to disconnect. Nancy mentioned it earlier.
I have an appointment on Monday that I was supposed to pre-register, and I've been trying, I'm gonna have to go sit outside and do it.
Quick on your feet.
I haven't done it yet. Can't do it. But we're
All
supposed to
sorts of
be
places,
hungry,
all
too.
sorts of different technology. You never know what you're running into. So when I talk about cycling philosophy is, and I'm going to show you what I call the extreme of cycling philosophy here. Is this is an example just of a 3/4 ton, work truck out there. The average acquisition cost, somewhere around 32 grand for this truck in the government direct buy space. When you buy it directly from the factory, that was what the average cost of it was last year. And you got two things going on in the county. One, you drive a relatively low mileage on it. I mean, you're not typically trucking 300 miles across the span every single day, and you buy vehicles very cheap. So we couple that with our ability to sell the vehicles at the right point in time. So one thing we look at is, over various points in time, what is the resale value of that vehicle? And believe it or not, for a work truck used out there for this kind of normal application, the right time to turn it over typically is somewhere between 12 to 24 months. Because we can buy that truck, we'll run it for that period of time, and sell for usually the same or more than we originally acquired it for. It doesn't always work. It's a continuing plan we continue to complete, but just an example of one of the things that we do. Obviously, your sheriff vehicle, you got to run that very differently than you run a work truck or a flatbed or a dump body or whatever, where it is. But at the end of the day, translate the same philosophy to knowing what is the right point in time to sell the same before our major problems actually happen. And one thing I like to just kind of show is, there it goes. All right. This is a real world example of a truck that we acquired in 2020. We bought this truck from another government entity, the 2019 Chevy. We ran this truck for a total of 15 months. Over those 15 months, we spent a total of $9,000 on finance payments and maintenance repair expense on that truck over those 15 months. At the end of that 15 months, we went and sold that vehicle. And we generated $18,000, almost $19,000 in proceeds of sale from that vehicle that went back to this municipality here, that is the city of Everett, a small city in the Dallas Metroplex. And so over that period of time, we actually ran an operational credit on that truck that we ran, because we brought in $9,000 more in revenue than we actually had expenses going out. This is kind of what we do, is we look at those areas of time we can capitalize when it makes sense to do so, and bring that to you in things that most government entities would never even think about, rotating a truck out at 15 months. So we bring that, so hey, we can do this, we can sell this through the channel, we can capitalize on that sale and make it make really good sense. And that's just an example of something that we do. So from an acquisition standpoint, there's really two ways to go out and buy vehicles from a government perspective. Either one, we buy them from state contract dealers or various dealers direct. That's one way to do it. The most cost-effective way to buy is directly through the factory. So we order it directly at the factory, get it built to spec, and have it drop shipped into the market vehicle needed to be done. And the reason that's more cost-effective, one, I'm getting the exact truck I need with exact specs, because if I go to the deal a lot, I bought 10 trucks. I just bought 10 different trucks, right? They're all spec'd in different, some more or less than what you need. But if I'm directly into exact spec, we're also avoiding some dealer profitability in there. Those are for-profit businesses, right? So if we can avoid some of that and buy them direct, then that can be very advantageous. And it works. We can do that probably 85% of the time. There is a percentage of time where we're forced to deal a lot through the ordering's not available. We have a vehicle that met its maker, and we had to get rid of it right now and plan all sorts of reasons like that. Those are the times we tend to use that. But also our job is to help make sure the vehicles are outfitted, ready to go, so that the county is not having to deal with getting the lights put on or logos or whatever is needed, so the vehicles are road ready when they land here. And that's part of what you're hiring us to do, is really execute upon this plan in the short and long term. Resale, it's just going to be a huge piece of what we do. We only sell about 15% of vehicles through auctions in general. Most vehicles we can sell outside of auction channels because we need a lot higher return for them. We also sell 0% of vehicles through public forum auctions. The reason why is because the average person rolling into a public auction is not looking to spend 30, 40 grand. They're looking to spend $2,000 on a vehicle. So we have to tap into those unique buyer bases that are looking to buy that type of vehicle. So I call franchise, non-franchise dealerships out there, overseas buyers, tote note lots, just wherever we can get the biggest return on the vehicle. We have somewhere between 19, about 20,000 unique buyers we sell vehicles to every year, and just really tapping those avenues. We have today, I think we have about 800 or 900 remarketers across the country. Their sole job is just to sell vehicles. I like to give everybody a fun fact about our rental car brand. 3/4 of its profitability is made from selling rental cars, not the rental car activity itself. And so when you talk about $30 billion a year business, and we got billions of dollars of profitability wrapped up in the rental car side of things, we're going to really capitalize and know, hey, what's the right week of the year to sell a certain type of vehicle? And it's usually based on production constraints of the manufacturers. When new production goes down, used cars prices bolster at that point in time. That's really our job to bring that to the table. There we go. All right. As far as operational items that we typically address, so maintenance and repair. So a lot of counties do things differently that we work with. There's no one size fits all here. I'd say 75% of the counties we work with, they outsource the maintenance and repair to shops within the tax base. And when we're doing that, we cut it up two ways. For all the existing vehicles that are owned and operated by the county that are in service today, we're not going to come in and replace the whole fleet at once. It'd be nice, but that's not really, doesn't make good financial sense to do that. So we're going to have to operate some of the existing vehicles for a period of time until it makes sense to replace them. So during that time, we go through what's called a maintenance management program. What that is when your vehicle goes in a shop, we audit the cost of labor, cost of parts, make sure everything's aligning from that standpoint. And then that shop bills us directly for that, and we just pass it back through on your monthly statement. That gets us that data capture we need to help give future advice into the future. And then as well as on the new vehicles we acquire, we typically put it under a fixed cost program. The reason we do that is from a budgetary standpoint, it makes things very predictable. I'm gonna be able to tell you in month 1 through month whatever exactly what we're gonna spend on maintenance and repair on this vehicle, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And we do that on what I call all non-pursuit rated vehicles. We don't put that fixed cost program on our pursuit rated sheriff's vehicle, but those go through the pay-as-you-go type program. But all the rest of the fleet that operates throughout the precincts, road and bridge, all the other fun stuff, those typically go through the fixed cost program. And the way we're able to fix the cost, I would say it works like a life insurance actuary table. We might have 250,000 Chevrolet pickup trucks rolling around out there. We know on average or a period of time in miles what's going to cost to repair and maintain that vehicle. And we just use the law of averages to be able to do that. And we have enough size and scope, we feel good about the risks that we're taking on those. And sometimes we win, sometimes we lose on them, but over as an aggregate, we're okay with the outcomes of that. Telematics, GPS tracking, if that's something we want to put in the vehicles. And then a lot of times we'll issue out fuel cards as well. Fuel cards we use, obviously we want to track the fuel consumption. If we see fuel economy taking dips, it's really important because we get that data analytics out of the fuel cards. Also, it gives us fraud detection. Someone managed to squeeze 30 gallons into a 24-gallon tank. You might want to take a look at the bass boat that's sitting behind that truck at that point in time when we filled it up. Also we get better mileage capture. We get mileage capture from the fuel cards. That's some of the reasons we typically will use those. But these can be piecemeal to see what makes sense for the county. We do have contracted shops already up there. One reason we have contracted shops already up here is because we have rental car operations that operate through here. We also have other clients, commercial and private entities, and government entities that operate through this region as well. So we have to be able to support the infrastructure with those shops also. From a technology standpoint, so if the vehicle is assigned to a driver, the driver will get push alerts directly to their phone or tablet or whatever it is that says, hey, you got oil changes due, past due, currently due, that sort of thing. If the vehicle is a pooled vehicle and they do have smartphones, they can check in and check out the vehicles through that. But all the department heads would get information through our website. So they'll get alerts of, hey, you got these vehicles that are oil changes coming due, currently due, past due. You got these recalls that are due. You'll be able to click on and see everything that's ever occurred on that vehicle. We're handling license and tile renewals through their alerts if the vehicle needs an inspection or something of that nature. those alerts will come through the system as well, so that we can make sure to get those done, so we get vehicles registered on a properly basis, as well as if we need to do anything we call alias plates for maybe undercover operations, that sort of thing. We'll help with registering those as well, which is really common in the law enforcement side of things. So that's the kind of overview of our services. Any questions there? Anything that seems like?
So your mechanic shop in our area, now you have a big enterprise has its own route towards Fort Worth, right? I mean, you have your own shop there.
We actually don't have a single shop that we own. We have a little operation at our airport because we have about 20,000 vehicles out at the airport that we have to support. But they mainly do like tire change and stuff. We actually contract with local shops in the tax base.
And what in Wichita Falls, do you know any of those?
I can look it up real quick, and I can plug in a zip code. I think there's about half dozen or so, or a
And
dozen
so
or so.
the actual owner of these vehicles in our possession is Wichita County, or are we leasing those vehicles just through you?
Yeah, so the new vehicles we acquire are set up at what's called an open-ended equity lease. And so lease is a very broad term. It doesn't necessarily mean like, hey, you got X number of payments and miles, that sort of thing. It's really just a finance mechanism. And they're titled in Enterprise's name, but registered in the county's name. And the reason we do it that way is, one, because of registered Enterprise's name, it gives us the ability to go out and sell vehicles in all sorts of different forms, and we don't have to take them through public form of sale, which allows us to get a lot higher returns on the vehicles. Also, quite frankly, we don't want to be chasing titles from you all the time and have to sell vehicles, but the county owns all the equity in the vehicle. That's why they call it equity lease. So when we go sell that said vehicle, the proceeds of sale go back to the county. So say, for instance, we had a truck we bought for 40 grand, for argument's sake. And maybe we ran it for a couple of years, and there's still a principal balance due of, call it $20,000 at the end of that period of time. And we go sell that truck for 30 grand. Well, that 30 grand pays off that 20 grand, and that $10,000 delta that's left over is what goes back to the county.
How does it come back to us?
Usually in the form of a check or invoice credit, however y'all want to treat it. Most counties just have to do an invoice credit of some sort, because it just makes the accounting a little bit simpler.
Typically, the auditor have to disperse it to whatever budget needs. 'cause
Well,
it's all
that's
about
true.
general.
It would all just go back to general, but let's just say we part ways and end our contract, then y'all retitle all of the vehicles back to us? Or how's that gonna work?
Yeah, so so our contracts are open-ended. Let's say, for instance, hey, they'll decide Nick sold you a bill of goods, this isn't working out for whatever reason. What happens is the vehicles just get, either you pay them off and the lease payments stop at that point in time, or you continue to let them amortize out over a period of time. And eventually they're gonna amortize out to zero and quote unquote, pay off over that period of time. We typically.
So it would kind of transfer to a long-term note versus owed to you until we paid them off?
Yeah, so you gotta settle the principal balance in one way. So I haven't ever had this happen, but there's really kind of three, maybe four real options there. Either one, you just because eventually the vehicle, they're called leases, but they're really just
Right.
finances.
Well, GASB 87 has changed the category of how we handle a lease, and that, well, your term lease, it changes my term lease.
Yeah,
and it's just-
they're really just finances. So from the financing mechanism, right? Every month they're making a principal payment on that vehicle, and eventually after a certain period of time, it's going to amortize to zero, right? At the end of that, when it hits zero, the vehicle's paid off, and there's no longer a lease cost.
I see that more as their financing no different than a bank.
Yeah, it's really a
Their
finance.
selling point is the fact that they can manage it.
Right, we're essentially paying for their disposal network. That's what we're paying for.
Well,
Because they have the
their
ability
maintenance
to
and their disposal network.
right, because we have the ability to sell them at a higher rate than what could do on our own. Not necessarily purchase at a lower rate, because they can't really purchase lower than we can on Bobboard. But, what's the interest rate looking at? Because the interest rate not fitting the sheriff's vehicles. I know a county auditor that uses you guys in another county, so got a little bit of heads up on how this works, so.
What was the question there?
Interest rates.
So it's going to be, we're based on 3-year T-bills, so it's a 350 basis points over 3-year T-bills.
Okay.
That's the basis for it. Now that's if we're funding them.
So today, that would be like
Nah, like it's probably like 7 something, so like low 7s, I would think at this point. I didn't look at T-bills this morning, but it's fixed at the time the vehicle delivers. We have some entities, government entities, not too many of them, that self-fund this as well. So I go out and buy a $40,000 vehicle. The county cuts us a check for 40 grand for that. I would say that is less than 5% of the entities we work with. The reason why is just get the program off the ground. You're going to see how many vehicles you'll have that are at or beyond that ideal cycle point. It's a large number of the fleet, and your ability to go out and fund that many vehicles out of what's available in the capital and reserves is probably unlikely. And so that's why most tend to use some sort of financing mechanism. Like I said, we're sort of agnostic to how you do that. It doesn't really matter to us, but in a day, because we know that if we look at what you're currently spending historically, even despite the fact we're having to incur some interest costs to get this funded, it still makes really good financial sense on the short and long term for the county, despite having to do that. And that's kind of what this is meant to illustrate. So you have 173 vehicles that you can see that are operating within the county today. Sorry to say.
You're fine.
So there's 173 vehicles in the county. Your average cycle / age is hovering somewhere around 10 to 12 years. That's how long you hold the vehicle on average today. Actually, 60 of those vehicles are beyond, beyond 10, beyond 7 or 8 years old. I think there's about 30, 40 of them that are well beyond a decade. There was 1963 out there too. Must be the parade vehicle or something.
It's actually a good one.
Anyway, so I don't have mileage capture, so one of the next steps beyond today is I really got to sit down with each commissioner, look at what's in your precinct, understand what it is. If we're going to replace it, what are we going to replace it with? Because the vehicle we bought 10, 20 years ago may make sense 10, 20 years ago, but maybe we need something different today than we have in the fleet. And so we'll sit down, we'll go through that. But average annual mileage, what we see across most counties is hovering around 15,000 to 16,000 miles. That's limited across the sheriffs as well as the other vehicles in operation. That's what we're seeing across the state that we work with today. On the surface of the thing, we're moving from a 10.1 year cycle to a 4.6 year cycle. Turning vehicles over every 3 to 5 years, depending on what it is. Now, there's certain vehicles in the fleet that we're not necessarily going to put on a defined replacement schedule. Some big dumps, it doesn't make sense to turn those over every 5 years, right? You're going to have some specialty equipment out there that really doesn't make sense to turn over on a regular basis. I think there's about 32 of those vehicles in operation today that I don't think makes sense to put on a defined replacement schedule of some sort. But this yellow line is supposed to represent the countywide average annual expense on its fleet, which is the CapEx as well as the operating expenses for it. So you're buying on average about 14 vehicles a year to maintain your current age today. Some years more, some years less. That's the blend across the county to maintain the current age that sits today. Based on the mix, you're probably going to spend somewhere around $600,000 to $600,000 based on today's prices to acquire that many vehicles. And then you're going to have to outfit those vehicles also, right? So we're spending a couple $100,000 outfitting those vehicles, especially on sheriffs. Could be lights, sirens, cages, all the other fun stuff that they need as well. Fuel maintenance is going to be hovering somewhere around $1.2 million across everything. Fuel for that many miles being driven across 173 vehicles. Maintain those vehicles of that age, somewhere around there. We're going to sell those vehicles. We're not probably not get a whole lot of that. So maybe the county budget's hover around. In this example, this is really what this meant to be as an example. We need to get some more data to be able to really fine tune. A couple $1 million a year to operate the entire fleet, which is about an average. I typically say on average spend $10,000 to $15,000 per vehicle per year to repair, maintain, and acquire vehicles. And you take that and multiply by 173. It's about what the statewide averages I'm seeing. But there are 108 vehicles in the county's fleet that are at or beyond its ideal cycle point. So in this analysis, we're saying over the next 12 to 18 months, we need to replace 108 vehicles. Seems like a crazy number because you're only buying 14 a year, but it's really what we're doing is playing catch up in the first year to be able to do that. And I'm expecting to spend $1.2 million on finance costs in order to do so. So within that finance cost, the question you'll need to ask is, where does enterprise make its money? So within that, these payment there is our management fee. So you pay us a management fee of 0.1% on a monthly basis of the capitalized cost of the vehicle. So if I go out and buy a $40,000 vehicle, you're paying me $40 a month to manage that vehicle. And that's buried in this lease cost there. That's where enterprise makes the majority of its money. It pays for our services and pays because once you become a client, you have an account management team that's assigned to you that's out here to meet with you quarterly about what's going on, planning for the future, and that pays for all the resources that we have to do that. So I expect to spend $1.2 million on finances, and I expect to spend about $600,000 on outfitting of the vehicles. I'm expecting fuel maintenance to drop down to $900,000. Most of that cost reduction is in the maintenance and repair side of things, so we're getting rid of everything that's aged today, and we're bringing in 108 new vehicles. I'm expecting to get $1 million in resale off your existing fleet. So we're going to bring in 108 vehicles. We're also going to sell 108 vehicles. So we have proceeds of sale coming in the first year to help us get the program off the ground, because obviously the county probably doesn't have the capital to go out and buy 108 vehicles, so that's why we're having to use a funding mechanism, and we're using the proceeds of sale to help offset that first year as well. And as you can see, every year, we're buying and selling. See the annual needs here. I mean, every year we're buying vehicles based on and that number is going to be constantly tweaked over the years based on what's going on with market demand, resale, operational data we collect off your fleet to be able to change that. And then every year we're selling vehicles, so we're bringing revenue into the system that has historically not been there before. And that is what helps make this sustainable over a long period of time. And they always say, if I can help you run a new fleet for the same cost as running a very aged fleet, I've done my job and I've done it very well at that point in time. And then if we can create savings over that period of time and be able to do so, then we're exceeding our goals that we have for this. That's really what this sort of analysis is meant to represent. Is, hey, how are we spending money today? And if we were to execute a plan like this, what would you expect over the next 5 to 10 years, the total financial impact on the county to do so? A lot of numbers here, I know. So, and these are really more examples, because I hate data. There's just a ton more data I need to really fine tune this stuff. But that kind of makes sense how I'm explaining it. Any questions there?
173 does not include the sheriff's office cars, correct?
It does. Yeah, it does. That's everything that we had, at least that you had insured today.
And, yeah, that's gonna be pretty close.
I think there's like
Including our pickup.
70 or 80 of those are sheriff's vehicles, give or take, something like that. And then everything else is going to be in the precinct. Does that sound right-ish?
Yeah,
Do you
roughly.
have-
Directionally correct?
Yes.
Now, that discounts of any buses or vans, is vans included in?
Yeah, I think I had some vans in there, but again, there's 32 of the vehicles there that I've included their operational expense in here, but I don't have them calculated in on the replacement schedule. They might get, after we have some further conversation, we probably end up adding some of those back in. But when I'm looking at VIN number and what it is, it's like either it's big and I can't really tell what it is, or it seems specialized. I'll pull those out because, again, a specialized piece of equipment is usually something that we deal with more on a case-by-case basis. Like, could be a minibus or something like that. It doesn't really make sense to turn one of those over every 4 or 5 years. Typically, you're gonna run those out 7, 8-ish years is about the right time for one of those that we're seeing, just depending on what it is. If we're talking about like a minibus or something, and then you get into bigger dumps, usually around the 7-year mark is about the right time where it makes sense to get into those. You're talking about like a 8-yard, 10-yard dump, something of that nature. That's typically around the
So
time.
you're talking, those are in that list as well?
Yeah, everything that's a licensable road worthy-ish
I'm actually
vehicle.
even our road trucks, our gravel haul trucks are in there.
Yeah, anything that was insured, that only things I pulled out was the yellow iron, I think, and some the trailers out of the list. So that outside, this is all the road type vehicles that are licensed, plated, and insured that were on the list today. Assuming the insured list is accurate.
Very.
close enough for government, as they say, right?
A lot of people doing some work to get it.
Yeah, it's a challenge. You got ebb and flow in the vehicles all the time, and you know it can be a big challenge to keep that side up there.
There's some older, and very few, not many, but there's some older stuff not on the insurance that really is at the yard, but it's probably migrating out. As soon as we're complete with putting together an upcoming sale,
Yeah.
but there's some of those left off insurance because they don't move from the yard.
Yeah, they're probably listed as a lot under the liability contribution, I imagine, but they're probably not insured on the physical damage portion. Usually, is what I see. And just one thing to keep in mind too: if the whole fleet's going to be new and stay new, ongoing, there's also potential you might be able to not run quite as many as you have today because we're not having to worry about downtime to the same. Typically, we see somewhere between I've seen as high as a 30% reduction in fleet size that counties are able to uncover by running new vehicles and maintaining them new because we're not having to just worry about downtime to the same. You still need a spare or two to be able to handle because vehicles are still going to need to go in for maintenance and things like that. But you might not have to have quite as many as you have today. And that's something we'll uncover as we go through. What I do is I have kind of what I call a round robin meeting with the commissioners. I sit down and say, okay, let's look at your fleet and let's go down through each vehicle under your purview and say, what is this? If this whole thing's new, we're going to replace it. What do we replace it with? What I need to budget for the equipment, flatbeds, dump beds, whatever it is. And then once I have that data, now I back build the budget based on all that. We all come together, and then at that point we use that budget I'm setting as what we look to in the future because we're putting this 10-year budget together, right? And every year we're gonna be comparing against the projections that we put. Okay, how have we met or achieved them? What can we do to further reduce that? And what's the kind of the ongoing, cumulative, cost difference over that period of time? And we have to have some sort of kind of like a bogey, as I say, to compare ourselves against, or else that's our health check for ourselves.
And then how about, or do any entities that you work with provide their own funding source to you?
Kind of depends on how you say it. So the vehicles, you can fund vehicles however you want. The only thing is we do have to have them titled in enterprise name to be able to really execute upon all this. I mean, one because we need to be able to sell vehicles. Outside public forums and to make this all work.
People do that. They buy vehicles, they don't title them, they title them to you. Just under a blanket agreement of some understanding.
Yeah, so what I do is, because at the end of the day, they're all set up, it's called an open-end equity lease, no matter how you fund it. Let's say if I go buy that, I'll use a $40,000 truck as the example. I buy that, well, instead of you making monthly payments on that $40,000, well, instead that you pay it up front, and the only thing you pay monthly is a management fee, ongoing.
Is the annual safety inspection part of the regular maintenance?
Yeah, usually we talk about just the inspection needed to register the vehicle. Yeah.
Unless we vote that out in the next, 2 days?
That's right.
Today?
Yeah. Yeah, so usually, in order to, if we're having to register, y'all know this just as well as I do. Currently, every county we work with, they gotta be inspected, and we have to, it's part of the two-step in order to get it actually, the vehicles re-registered.
But you're saying that the purchase of these vehicles, you can arrange the purchase, but we can arrange the financing for that from our own source.
Yeah, if you want to. I don't have any counties in North Texas we do that with, but I got a couple of municipalities like City of Keller, City of Colleyville, or the cities we work with that are well funded. Mainly the entities that tend to do that are ones that already had a fully funded VERF, Vehicle Equipment Replacement Fund, in place prior to partnering with us. It was already funded. You can go out and also issue bonds and other mechanisms to do so. If you have unsecured lines of credit you have access to as well, and you can do it that way. But that may or may not be financially advantageous for you. It might be more cumbersome for you all to have to deal with all those transactions versus having us just write the paper on it. Because we also want to make your lives a little easier, and your life a little easier. Get ebbing and flowing, 108 vehicles and dozens and dozens of vehicles, 50, 60 vehicle transactions every single year going on, might become very cumbersome for y'all to be able to do it. If you're either not self-funding out of that, or you're using our funding mechanism.
Okay, so will the extra profit basically that you can get from selling our vehicles, instead of us doing it, pay for your services and the higher interest costs that are currently going on?
Yeah, that's what this is supposed to represent. So that includes all of our costs, cost of funds, our management fee, everything is inclusive in the financial perform I put together. So my job is to be able to show you how I can do this, despite the fact we're incurring some costs, or maybe we're not today.
Yeah.
Do you ever run into problems insuring I mean, because you guys own them, right? And I understand it's kind of a finance vehicle and everything, but you don't have anything with that? Because I mean, we currently insure our vehicles, and
Yeah.
I'm assuming there wouldn't be a problem with that. But
Texas Association of Counties or something.
Yes,
yes,
yes.
yeah.
That's how all the entities do it too.
Okay.
I only have one county in the whole state that we will actually self-insure portions of the fleet ourselves, and we'll write the paper on it. But I only have one in the whole state. Most everyone uses Texas Association of Counties. If you're a municipality, TML, Texas Municipal League, does it so that you just pay into it. They add us what's called an additional insured. on
Sure,
there.
sure.
And then that's
Yeah, you'd have to be if you own it.
Yeah.
The technical owner, yeah.
yeah. I mean, we do this on a very, very large. So we have thousands and thousands of vehicles
Sure.
under there. So.
Is this a program you could phase into, say, over a period of several years?
For sure.
In other words, you would figure out that in the next 4 years, we're gonna roll into this program. I mean, sometimes that might be a little more manageable for what.
Yeah, that kind of is what we're doing here, So we have such a big tranche in the first year.
Yeah.
It's just because we got so many old vehicles, and as I'm going through the list, I'm like, it's like, where do I stop? Does that make sense? It's like, well, if I stop at 10 years, we should still have all these others that are very aged. It's like, I had a hard time determining like the stopping point, because I like to try to even it out if I can, but just you have so many aged vehicles today, it was hard for me to create that break point. And one of the problems is, because we always take there's 141 vehicles that I think we should fund and do on a regular basis. We could take that and break it up at 35 vehicles a year. The only problem is when we only do 35 this year, there's still those other vehicles that are so old that have very unpredictable expenses tied to those vehicles. That makes it really hard for me to say, okay.
How do you choose?
Yeah, how do you choose what? And I can tell you, the minute we start replacing some, the one you think's in good shape is gonna give you hell.
How much can you get for a 92 Cadillac?
Eldorado.
There's all the mafia at one point in time, then
Well, it's a little difficult, really,
Yeah.
when if you go into this program or any program in an inflationary economy.
Yeah.
That's a challenge. If you're in some, and it's never flat, I understand that, prices are gonna go up, but this one's been out of the ordinary, inflated the last few years. And that makes it much more difficult to do a large deal, because you can really acquire some additional expenses as you go into that stuff. So,
For sure.
to me, this would be a lot easier program to roll into if we could get some kind of stability on certainly interest rates and just inflation overall.
Yeah.
Some of this stuff's nuts out there right now.
So are we, under this program, we are under agreement with you to sell those vehicles, or can we shop that bid?
Yeah, you can sell anything that's owned by the county. You can go and sell on your own. Anything that's filed in our name, we're going to go sell it.
But let's say we target 140 vehicles that are geared for a 5-year ownership.
Mhm.
Will you give us a value of that 5th year?
Yeah, correct.
And I can shoot against that?
Yeah, so we set what's called, so when we're setting up the vehicles we're gonna sell for the given year, and every year your client strategy manager who works with y'all, that meets with you, they're going to say, hey, the vehicles we're gonna replace, we recommend replacing this year, they'll agree to that, those numbers. they're gonna set what's called a floor value on those vehicles, saying, hey, as long as we get this or better, you're good for us to go ahead and get the vehicle sold. And we're gonna set that floor on those every
It
single.
sets you an operating level there.
Correct, yeah, we gotta do it, we wanna set a floor that y'all feel good about also, and then our job is to go and obviously crush that number. I mean, our job is to come back and show you how we've outperformed.
And that's part of the service that we're really paying for.
Yeah, you're
Because
paying
if
for
we're
us.
gonna pay, if we're gonna do it ourselves, then there's not much point in paying him to do it.
Yeah, because you're the buyer base that we're looking for. Your currently owned vehicle, especially the age one, I mean, we can go run that through anything. I mean, you're talking about a vehicle that's 15 years old with 150,000 miles on it that's been beat up on the road a lot. You're not gonna get there's not a whole lot of value in that one. Where it's really gonna make a difference is when we start selling the newer one, the relatively new, those 7 years or under vehicles. That's where it really makes a difference. Where we have to find the right buyer base to be able to get the kind of money that we need for those vehicles. And one thing I would say about this, when I'm putting this analysis together, there's two things going on. One, I mean, having to use today's projected acquisition cost for the financing side of it. But then when I'm putting together the resale numbers, I'm using what I call pre-COVID numbers for the resale projections in here. And the reason why I'm using pre-COVID numbers is because they're a lot lower than today's numbers. Today's numbers are so inflated on the resale side of things. And, you know, I'm gonna go out on them and say, if y'all agree to this, somewhere down here, you're gonna hold me accountable to some of these numbers potentially. And I wanna be able to, 5, 6, 7 years from now, I need to be able to look back and feel like I'm gonna be able to hit some of these resale numbers that we have here. And if I was to use today's numbers in these, that, yes, we're gonna probably be inflated for the next 2 years, but 5 years from now, it's not gonna have the same level of inflation that we have today. So really, when I'm putting together a projection, I really need to use historical values, not current values, as I said today. Hopefully that makes some semblance of sense. And a lot of counties want me to use, hey, use what they're selling for today. It's like, I'm not gonna use that for year one, but after that, I don't feel very confident in using today's dollars for resale standpoint.
And are you ever the buyer of any of those vehicles?
No.
Enterprise never
Sometimes
owns
our
any
car
of them.
sales division will tag a couple, but it'd be like less than 1% of the vehicles that would go through our car sales division that we would do that. Most of the stuff comes to our enterprise car sales division, comes out of our rental fleet operations. Because
In
we're
other
such,
words, I'm not gonna be able to fly into Denver and rent my expedition staff car.
no, the rental cars on average turn over about every 10 to 12 months on average is the average rotation on our rental car. Taking the larger stuff, our trucks, they run out a little bit longer, but so they're gonna be very, very new vehicles that typically run through our car sales division, so there's not too many county vehicles that really
This
qualify.
seems to me to be like one of those deals where you either, in vehicles in general, there's a point where you trade off and take advantage of the high, and you just explained it, or you wear it out.
Yeah.
And it just depends on where your tolerance level is, and we've got some on both ends of the spectrum.
Yes, you do.
It's just hard.
$63.
And lo and behold, if you rolled into this program and you did a fourth of it,
Yep.
you would choose the wrong fourth, I promise you, from experience. That
Yeah.
first year or two would be tough.
I swear the vehicles
Yeah.
hear you. They're like, trying to get rid of me, I'll show you.
I'll show you.
I swear.
Yeah.
I swear it is. And I'm gonna be really upfront with you. This 108 vehicles I'm targeting here,
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna be able to achieve it in the first year. I'm gonna be, just because of what's going on with productions right now.
Can't replace them.
Yeah, we're gonna go out, we're gonna do our darndest to, replace 108. We might only end up getting 50, 60 of those. And so anything that we don't get done here, we just have to roll it to the subsequent year.
Yeah.
And then just so the fleet, it's gonna naturally level itself out anyway, whether we want to or not. If this was, 2019, I'd say we can acquire 108, no problem. But
Yeah.
today,
No.
with what's going on with Chevy, Ford
And
Ford's
we
very
just not-
constrained, it's just
You
not
drive by
achievable.
the dealerships, and some are better than others, and I watch it a little closer than most. I'm a car guy. That's kind of my deal. And we're not back. We're not there.
We're not.
I don't understand, but we're just not. And
I mean, inventories are down roughly 60% even today, as it sits today. Production is still down, by about 25% over what it is. And most of, you go by a dealership today, most we see out there, they have more used cars sitting out there on the lot. They're kind of spreading out the peas on the plate, as I call it.
Well,
Make
they're
it
paying
look
a
like they have
premium,
something.
they're paying a premium to buy them and put them
Yeah.
on the lot. What does that tell you?
Yeah, for
You
sure,
know.
yeah.
I have a question for y'all too. On our sheriff's vehicles in the past, we haven't, since I've been on the court, purchased a large amount of sheriff vehicles.
You'll get your chance.
What, that's what I wanna know. Historically,
Well,
y'all have to
ten's
buy.
been a big buy.
What's a big buy? That's-
10. And more commonly, you know, we've hit about the 2015 through, I would say 18 or 19, probably 5 or 6 a year.
So we really haven't
They're
ever
falling
been
off.
hitting 14 a year.
Well, he's
Yeah.
saying all
15
vehicles,
That's
so
across
you got
the whole-
your big trucks and your pickup at the, service truck, whatever.
I
the
mean,
case.
cause if we do 10, Tahoes right now, you're gonna spend what? 600,000, 700,000?
Oh, at least,
Yeah,
At least.
by the time you buy it and
And
you
when we
outfit
buy
it.
them,
So, probably closer to 7, most likely.
And you're talking about, what's it costing to buy 108?
Well, the first year, we're financing.
More.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So-
We're
Four.
gonna finance it.
So technically what I'm funding, let's say it's on average cost me 45, 50 grand on average going across everything. So just do $50,000 times 108, that's what Enterprise is cutting a check for, to go out and do that. So, we have $5 million bucks that we're funding.
So
out
we're
there.
spending more in interest than we are for what we typically spend in a big year purchase.
Yeah.
Yes, that is correct.
Well, yeah, I don't think not half of that's interest right there, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, most of that's principal payment in there.
Okay.
Yeah, the vast majority of that's gonna be principal.
But
So,
we don't finance our vehicles now, we usually just buy them outright.
Yeah,
So we
that's
would
what
be
this
out the
represents.
interest plus whatever, maintenance cost.
yeah, that's what this is meant to represent, the fact that y'all are funding out
Now, the-
capital, not financing.
The maintenance management side of this is probably the best selling point I see,
Yes.
because maintenance
Currently,
management will
we
save
don't
you
have,
money.
right, and we don't have a central way to really track the maintenance on any of our vehicles. They kind of get maintenance all over the place. Or we'll use our,
Or lack
friends
of.
person to do
But
repairs.
it's no different
Right.
than what Jeff's trying to do with the equipment. We're trying to
Yes.
create a maintenance
A maintenance-
management
right.
company.
And that lets us know a lot of things, as he has said, that data is invaluable to us,
For sure.
really.
Yeah,
Well-
it's what we use to be able to give advice in the future, because I can click on a vehicle, know everything we've ever spent on that vehicle, and then we can use it to make really good decisions around that vehicle as well.
And that's
And
how
it-
your company buys vehicles. That's what you go by. You go
Yeah.
by that to determine what you want to buy.
Yeah, what we wanna buy, what should we sell, we see a vehicle's trending higher, what we call off-trend, or, then we wanna pull that off-trend vehicle and get it out sooner, because there's gonna be a couple quote-unquote lemons in the bunch, we wanna get those out, be able to identify those. Probably most government entities, all the costs, it's going in all sorts of
It's
different buckets, it
everything.
gets bundled in with equipment repairs and everything else, and trying to know what you really spend on your fleet is actually extremely challenging for all government. It's not just y'all, it's not like y'all are doing it right. It's every single entity that I work with. I've been doing this for 15 years. I've never seen an entity that has a really good handle on it.
We'll have a fluctuation between the oil change servicing and what we pay for that service versus the fuel we buy. There's some fluctuation in the fuel we buy, but the minor aspect of with what we've been very lucky with, the cost of maintenance for us. I mean, it's something that in a blue moon, do we replace a transmission? In a blue moon, we replace a motor. That's just not happening. And does it go in because it's making a noise? Yes. Does that happen regularly? No. Because in relevance, even though our fleet under this aspect appears old, it's really not old from an aspect of 10 and 15-year-old vehicles running that still are very functionable, and so we don't encounter, it's good to know, but at the same time, we have, we're buying, at least 10 entities or departments within the county buying fuel at different places, and that swing could be 20 cents
No, for sure.
in what we're filling up on. And, you know, but it's hard to do it otherwise because not everybody's gonna drive to the courthouse to get on the gas pump that we set up out here and fill up with the same fuel. So that makes it very difficult. There's a fluctuation, I know for us there, and we do encounter some maintenance things, and we try to get out of those in the bigger equipment or from the road and bridge perspective in a short enough time that we're not encountering that overhaul or,
We're doing, what, 2 engines a year?
yeah.
Mainly, it seems like we do a Tahoe
Yeah.
about once a year, but
Yeah.
not much more than that. But what really makes a program like this difficult for an organization like this, if I was running a rental car fleet and I only had to deal with subcompacts and full sizes, that's pretty easy to do. But we've got so many variations in this deal of different deals, and it makes it tougher to swing one of those. Let's just take a 1-ton service truck where you've got to change out the bed, you've got to mount things to it, you've got two-way radios, you've got that kind of stuff, which would make you tend to say, well, I know this thing is up to, but I think I'm gonna run it one more year because it's just such a hassle to swap it over. Well, then your bed won't fit the new one. You run in it, we ran in it. That's been one of the good things about our Tahoe patrol cars. For a certain period of time, they've been pretty good, but now they're changing on us again, and our equipment won't swap over. And that's what gets it. And we have, if this was just straight up cars, it would be a pretty simple deal. But some of the stuff we run, and you can pick anything. I'm not saying it's not a good deal, but we might have to do a better job of managing our fleet as to what we're gonna use for what purpose and get them standardized somewhat. And we could probably do that.
Yeah, I would say, we have,
Yeah.
20,000 vehicles, and vast majority of the government vehicles are flatbed service bodies
Yeah.
with welders and all kinds of stuff
Sure.
now, right?
Maybe all 4 precincts need to run the same kind of service truck. To where,
Potentially, if y'all can come into agreement on that.
yeah, I think we could. I think we could come up with something serviceable, but, well, right now they've been, they've been acquired one at a time. They're kind of one-off deals. They've been equipped a certain way, but we could do a little bit better job of deciding what really works for us and what we need.
Yeah, because what you've been doing today, you don't really have to do that because you're buying onesie-twosies, here and there. But when you're talking about buying bulk, it can make sense to create some standardization. But I'll say this, when I'm building a budget like this, I have to assume we're gonna have to buy a new bed every time we swap that truck. And if we can reuse the flatbed or service body or whatever it is, that's great, but I can't build that into an analysis because, to your point, the bolt pattern is gonna change.
Oh,
So 5 years from now, and I'm not gonna be able to reuse that service
Planned
body.
obsolescence.
Yeah.
It'd be more valuable to sell it complete.
Yeah,
Well, and we've
it
done
can-
that,
it can
really
just
and
be a
truly.
vehicle. So-
We've done that with our Tahoes.
Yeah.
We're selling more of them now equipped and not swapping that stuff out because the labor to swap the cage and swap a bunch, the grill guards, and we want a grill guard on all our,
Well,
our
the
Tahoes.
sheriff's ones, they have to be, nowadays, they have to be decommissioned to a point they don't smell like they used to be a
Yeah.
police vehicle, because of some of the laws that have changed in the last few years when it comes to remarketing those. The only time you get around that if it's going to another, commissioned entity of some sort is the only time you can do that. So majority of the time, the only things that are typically transferable on a police vehicle nowadays, when they were swapping every 4 or 5 years, about 5 years is the right point for most county sheriff vehicles. Radios, radars, cameras, computers. Those are the 4 transferable items almost every single time. And typically when you go to replace radios, you replace them as a whole so the system's compatible. But so when I'm building, kind of to the same point, when I'm building a budget like this, I have to assume we're gonna have to get new cages, new lights, new push bumpers.
You're adding a new unit, basically.
Basically
Yeah.
new rear, those crazy seats they put in the second row, where it was called, prisoner partition seats, in the second row. We gotta assume we gotta get rid of those every time. If we can reuse them, it's gravy as I call it, but we cannot budget for that. I wish we could, but it's just, especially Tahoe, they love to change the configuration of those things.
We made a move a number of years ago to putting grill guards on a lot of our vehicles when possible. I think that's been a good move. I'm not 100% sure we don't need to continue to do that. Guys, you can do so much damage to the front end of a vehicle these days with just a light little bump that, boy, it doesn't take long to pay for a grill guard.
And no one ever knows how that damage happened, did they?
No, they don't.
No, it's
Well,
amazing.
it just, boy, you know, you can hit a deer and do, you know, $5,000 worth of damage, take the radiator and the condenser and all that out. So
We should've done that.
those, I think those have been good. We've tried to put them on our patrol cars and even a lot of our precinct stuff. I think it's been a good investment.
So, kind of back to what I said before, the next step here, if I can really like fine tune this, is I really gotta go through, I need to know things like that. Okay, does this vehicle need a service body?
Yeah.
You know, do I need to have a ladder rack? Do we, you know, those sort of things that help you really fine tune all of this. I mean, I can set something like this and use it as a guideline, but for myself, I mean, I really like to be a lot more accurate in this personally, because again, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7 years from now, we're still gonna be looking back to these numbers as our comparison point, and I wanna be confident in what I'm putting out here.
Focus in on the numbers.
Yeah, focus on the numbers a lot more. That's just, it's just how I like to do things. But-
And Nick, tell me, like you mentioned buying direct from the factory, how is the selection made, which factory?
We bring advice and guidance to y'all, and then y'all tell us which factory you buy it from.
So, I mean, what happens to our rules about trading based on best price out there? Do we have to shop Ford, shop Chevrolet, shop Dodge?
Yeah, so we actually take it to bid every year on your behalf. So we take it to Ford, Chevy, Ram, you know, so maybe Nissan.
Is that under a buy group of some sort?
Yeah,
they're
so-
under buy board, so,
Okay.
yeah.
So buy board's is a buying cooperative. We don't have to run stuff through the buy board, but through our tips and Sourcewell awards, which is the same thing as buy
It
board, by the way.
runs through that, yeah.
It runs through that. So we have our fleet management award is all encompassing of that. So the county actually will no longer have to go out and create solicitations like you do today. We do it on your behalf. That's you're hiring us to essentially be your fleet department for all intents and purposes. So,
Yeah.
and so you're hiring us to do all these sort of things.
But is there, so in Sourcewell, let's say I call Caldwell Chevrolet.
Yeah.
And I buy through Sourcewell. Is your Sourcewell cheap for that Chevrolet cheaper than Caldwell Chevrolet?
Yeah, if we're buying through so Caldwell's we can go down a rabbit hole here, by the way, because like Caldwell's actually on the state contract, not necessarily on the Sourcewell contract. So we'll go piggyback off your status and buy off the state contract if it makes sense, and it's the same price. So we'll look at all the different sourcing avenues to find which one has the best. But typically, we actually don't use any of those. 85+% of the time. Typically, we're buying them direct at the factory level, which is more cost effective than it's going through a cooperative of some sort.
At many of the meetings and training sessions we've been to over the last few years, there's a smart car that has a county judge license tag on it. And if we could find him a smart car, I'd pay good money.
Yeah, I want to see him. I want to see him fold into the smart car.
I'd pay
actually.
good money just to watch him get in and out. That'd be good.
I always tell all the sheriffs and police chiefs, I think you should have like one smart car as the punishment vehicle for the officer that really made you upset that month. And then tell them that one.
Well, it's an interesting program. There's a lot to think about there.
Yeah, I guess the kind of feedback I want to hear from y'all today is, do you feel like us going through the exercise, at least getting this more fine tuned, is something that y'all want to do?
I'd like to see more of the number run out, just to understand so I've got, just the quick math for me, $100,000 or just under $100,000 a year for you to manage at the $40 price. So then I've got the interest deal, so we can reach out and get some money cheaper than what that
For sure.
it would be right now. So having to understand, you know, some of those deals, but I mean, I like the management side of it because it keeps our fleet. It's just a big moving part. It's a headache for the sheriff for the most part to stay on top of it, come beg for the money to get it done with, and then all you get is, a lot of times we don't get rid of the other end as quick as what we should and we could, so.
Simplicity though, what was the $40 per
It's
vehicle
that's-
per
that's
what?
about 85
0.1%
grand.
maintenance per vehicle.
About $40 a year?
No, $40 a month,
Per vehicle.
$480 a year.
Yeah, it's based on the capitalized cost of the vehicle. So if I could buy a $30,000 vehicle, you're paying me $30 a month. I buy a $60,000 vehicle, you're paying me $60 a month.
Yes.
If y'all self-fund, we do it, just we'll put a flat management fee in place there, so it'll be flat across the board. Doesn't matter what we're buying. Doesn't matter if the vehicle costs $100 grand or $5,000. If y'all are able to self-fund, but
Yeah.
just because
5.4 million to self-fund 108 vehicles first year.
you got that in yours, right?
Taxpayers like that.
Yeah. So that
Woo, we're all getting new vehicles.
yeah. And what-
Okay, Oprah.
Yeah, that's also, hey, what you said is actually a good point. It's one thing we also will help with a press release also, because you're gonna have a lot more new vehicles hitting the road, so we wanna make that of why the county made that decision to do that, why it made fiscal sense for the taxpayer as well. It's
Taxpayers like to see in about a 1977.
Yeah. Let's drive that one around a whole lot. Let's hire someone just to drive your 63
Not
around
even-
all day.
Not even all the lights working. They're like, man, them county guys, they really squeezing that money out.
Yeah, I know, for sure.
And
Well,
that is what they like to see.
Again, we're doing this on, we work with quite a few counties, and so we've gone through all this quite a bit over the years, and been able to execute upon it very, very, very well over a long period of time, and so.
I think feedback is you piqued the interest of everybody.
Yep.
I think next step's gonna be, and Nick, I've got your contact, I think Nancy's got your
Yep.
contact as well. Maybe to share that, Nancy, with all the commissioners, anyone who's in here, department head or role who wants it, and then they can reach out to you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'll send an email to everybody with my contact information, I got all y'all's, and share it around with whoever. And usually what I do is I'll come up here, next few weeks, I'll post up in a conference room somewhere and do a little, what I call a round robin, and let everybody just kind of roll through there, one, no more than two at a time type thing. Roll through, there, so we can have individualized conversations around what's in your department, under your purview. Because you live and breathe it every day, and so I can look at 30,000 foot, but I need to know real granular
And
information.
Patrick McFerrin is the kind of over the sheriff vehicle program.
Patrick
And
McFerrin.
we need to
Yeah.
pull him in, there as well and let him, and I know there's been a couple of constables, reach out to me about
Their
they
vehicles
think that there's
their
something.
vehicles are very old, and
Yeah.
we've done a lot of work on.
Usually
those.
constable
that's-
vehicles get the leftovers.
They
Yeah.
do, they get whatever's left
I
over.
totally
from
forgot
these,
about that.
so-
Yeah, one of your constables actually reached out to me. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah,
And he was.
Rodney Burchett, I think.
Burchett, not Rodney, Jared. Rodney's the JP.
Oh, I mean Jared
Yeah.
Burchett, yes.
I think he might have talked to Fred Tillman over at Burke Burnett. I think that's
Yeah,
where
yeah, because I think Jared has a request for a new vehicle in his budget for.
Well, and I think I'm just sitting here and watching this, and it makes me stop and think, I really need to sit down and do some thinking about where we are in our fleet, because are we doing things just because that's the way we've always do it, or do we really have exactly what we need to go do our job every day? And it may be some of both, but we could change some things around. A lot of times you just, we've always done it that way, and that may not be the very best way to look at it, so.
Once
Just
you go
spend a
to,
little time.
once you go to a lease,
Yeah.
it's really hard to go back if you ever want to.
Yes, that's.
I mean, it would cost you,
Oh,
it would
yeah.
cost the taxpayers.
Well, why is that? They're your cars, I mean, you
Well-
can run them out, pay them out, and be
Yeah, we
right
would-
back what you got today.
Oh,
It's true.
I mean, you're
yeah,
just
that's,
fine.
that's true.
Yeah, eventually they amortize out, and then you just you run them to kingdom come, and then even if we haven't worked together, haven't acquired a vehicle for you in 10 years, we'll still go and sell that vehicle for you. I mean, we're we're in the customer service business, and today we want to make sure.
92
What I see,
Cadillac.
what
There you go.
I see in here too is a real analyzation of, we've got 174 vehicles, we might could operate with 92.
That's my point.
And we're sitting on some that hadn't been started in 6 months, and they need to be gone.
Correct.
And we don't need to be paying
And
insurance
if you
on it.
have somebody that's helping manage that a lot better, it'll get done a lot faster.
Yeah, we're gonna use what we call utilization
And we'll be
reports.
able to see mileage,
Oh, yeah.
idle
Oh, yeah,
time.
100%, yeah.
Cause that's been a real question for the court is idle time of some of our SO vehicles on job sites.
Yeah,
and
what, one thing,
maintenance and so forth.
putting, if we're gonna go through exercise of trying to, what I call right size the fleet, I mean, putting telematics in vehicles is really helps with that, cause we get real time, idle time, real time, hour pulls and everything off the
Does
vehicles.
it also identify the vehicle, location of the vehicle?
Yeah,
kind of
It's
vehicle?
got a GPS
Yeah,
locator
yeah,
on it.
where they're at, how fast they're driving, they make harsh
So when
turns,
you're
they wear a
When you're
seatbelt.
taking your boat to the lake, we're gonna.
Yeah,
know.
we're gonna know. Yeah, we're gonna geofence the marina on your vehicle, and your home, and
But I mean, it's placed so that if I had one stolen,
oh yeah.
they don't find it instantly and knock it off with the claw hammer?
No, so it plugs in. There's most entities we work with. It plugs into it goes to the OBD2 port of the vehicle, but there's this little harness that kind of looks like this, right? The harness plugs in and it leaves what looks like an open OBD2 port off it, but that T harness is off, and it gets actually just zip tied up under the dash somewhere. So at first glance, it looks like it's just an open thing, unless they're really savvy and they go look under, they clip the wire, which is possible. But if you put enough parameters in place and you got a vehicle moving at a weird hour of the day, which is usually when most thefts tend to happen, then you'll get alerts of those movements of that vehicle, so we can dig into it real quick. We'll have those alerts go directly to the judge here, and he'll answer at 2 a.m.
We'd like to monitor that.
Good.
His phone don't work in the evening.
That's true. I'll just sleep through the alarm.
Maybe we should send him to Jeff. He's up at 4:30.
Yeah.
But so I mean, GPS. One thing I'd say about that, it can be a white noise of information coming out of that stuff. When you build reports around, we want to just get to the core of what you need on a daily or really a monthly basis. On average, the average person can only withstand maybe 1 to 2 reports in any given month that they receive about information. If you're getting them reporting too often, it becomes white noise so quick. Like, just think about those emails everybody gets every day, and you auto delete them or look past them.
But we have the ability to ask for something more in detail.
Yeah, call ad hoc reporting on information. So we usually set you up for alerts on the core stuff that's really, really important. And then we will help you pull ad hoc stuff as we see things that we deem to be valuable for y'all, or y'all deem to be valuable. We'll help you pull that sort of information and you can get in things like driver report cards. You can go so deep into that stuff. It just depends on what you're really trying to achieve out of it.
That driver report card might not be a bad idea when we've got our insurance issues, where they're coming up and we're getting recommendations on maybe we need to do a driver's education course.
Yeah, and also to your point with insurance too, if you cut your fleets from 173 down to 120, that you have 50 less vehicles you're contributing to the fund for. Those can be big dollars also, as well, adding up over the years, and so those are all consideration points, safety factors.
Nate, thank you.
Thank you all so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I'll email everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaking of vehicles,
Motion to approve.
item number 3
It's my
on
one.
general business. Discuss, consider, and or take action to award bid for crew cab chassis for precinct 2.
There was some hesitation and approval of this the other day because in the bid said 55 Ram 5500, and I thought that the paperwork that went out for bid submission was a Ram 3500, and it was not. It was just a cabin chassis. Didn't have the size on it at all. So I would make a motion to approve this bid and go for it.
Second. All right, we've got a motion from Commissioner Concanon, seconded by Commissioner Watts to award the bid from Foundation for the Ram 5500.
And that is a local dealership.
All right, motion before us. Do we have any public comment on this item? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 4, discuss, consider, and/or take action on the creation of the county elections administrator position. Let me lay this one out, and then I'll be happy to answer questions and we can discuss it. So, y'all all know some of this already because y'all discussed this at some length last year. But the county elections administrator position would be created by a written order of this court. We would need to indicate the date that the position will be effective. Now, we do have some ability to employ a person for that role up to 90 days prior to the office being effective. Statute designs that to give the chance to hire somebody, get them up to speed before they take on the official roles. So if the court decides to move forward with the EA, then it goes to a county election commission to do the job of finding a person and appointing them. That election commission is, like I said, 5 people. It's the county judge, who's the chair, county clerk, who's the vice chair, county tax assessor collector would be the secretary, and then each of the political parties, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, their county chair would be on that commission. And then that commission would interview, see if they found a candidate. It's a simple majority vote that affirms that person. And then that person, if they're affirmed, that person becomes the EA. Then the court is responsible for setting the budget for that position and for all of the associated duties around deputies of that person or other employees, the office, the equipment, all of it. In a lot of ways similar to how this court sets the budget for the elections department and the budget. It's the exact same deal. So the authority for that lies with the Commissioner's Court.
Just sets the budget, not who oversees, if the elections commission oversees.
Correct. Correct. So it would be the election commission. If you hired someone, they didn't work out, and you were going to terminate their employment, the election commission is the one who does that. But then the court does have to vote on that if the election commission chooses to do that.
That's for the deputies as well, or just the?
Just the elections administrator itself.
So
the administrator could make their own hiring and firing decisions for the people working within.
So this completely removes elections from the county clerk's duties?
So the EA, the duties, they take over the voter registrar duties that the county clerk currently does, and take over all of the elections duties that the county clerk currently does. The only spot that has to do with elections that the county clerk would keep would be some posting requirements, similar to how the clerk posts for a number of other things. The only eligibility restriction in statute for the elections administrator is that they have to be a qualified voter of the state of Texas. Only other thing that I would put out there, the Commissioner's Court is the one at any time by written order may abolish the position. And if the court ever decides to do that, it immediately returns those duties back to who had them before. So in our case, the county clerk would reassume those duties as of the effective date of an abolition. I think that this, as we've all talked about and gotten to experience over the last few months, elections has become a very specialized and very eyes-on and just detail-oriented role in a way it may not have been even 10 years ago. And I think that having those duties be out from under the county clerk's office, that's just one thing that the county clerk and her staff have to do. and instead being in one specific, that's all that they do and focus on, I think that would be a good move and one that I think would serve the residents of Wichita County well.
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
The election committee, because right now there's really no oversight by anybody with elections. You know, the county clerk is in charge of the elections, and a commissioner or county judge can't really make them give you any information. With the elections administrator, if I get this right, your election commission would have direct oversight to that elections administrator.
Yeah, essentially it works like with any of your road and bridge precinct employees. The commission feels that that person's not doing their job, they're not responsive, the commission can vote to remove them at any point.
And I think that's a good thing. I think having that oversight is a good thing, because we couldn't, you can't be involved with the county clerk in elections if she doesn't invite you to be involved. You see what I'm saying? So I think having a commission set up that has more oversight into that is a good thing in the long run.
And Judge, on how does that work? So the elections administrator hears from Hart in 2 years from now, and they say, you know, because of these certain changes, we need to now upgrade this equipment, spend $1 million. Who does she bring that information to?
The administrator would bring that to the commissioner's court, because anything having to do with
Budgetary.
equipment, office space, employees, anything related to budget is a decision that this court makes. It is a odd arrangement from the standpoint of, in some ways, the commission is the hiring, firing boss of the administrator, but everything else is reliant on the court to do from funding and,
So it'd be
Yeah,
pretty
I
much
think
like
it's-
any elected office, we have the power of the purse and nothing
yes,
else.
that's a good
But-
similarity.
But there's
Yeah.
another layer
Yeah.
with the election commission
Yeah.
overseeing.
Because unlike all of those, the administrator is not directly accountable to the voters by being up for election.
Right.
But their bosses is the commission, which is made up of 3 people who are, and then 2 county chairs who are
Are also-
accountable to their elected.
Represent
yeah.
both sides.
Yep.
Okay.
And so do you think that would we wait to develop the budget for that? Or would we move forward? Let's just say that you start the process and start looking and whatever, and we're now in the middle of needing to, will you have some recommendations for us maybe towards what to set aside for that
The budget's already been set, we've already budgeted for that.
for
So,
2023?
Yes.
yeah, but you're talking about for 2024.
Yes, for building, for that whole process of, hey, you know, we're gonna go to this office, we need this furniture, and I'm thinking we need 2 people instead of 3 people, or 3 versus 2, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think that probably treat this like other departments that aren't underneath an elected official. So moving forward for 24, this cycle, it'll probably be incumbent upon me to develop that budget for the 24 that this court can, you know, approve and do what we do. And then moving forward after that, ask the elections administrator to come to us with what he or she thinks the budget should be, and then we'll treat it like we do other departments in that respect.
And could we, upon approval of this, or as part of the approval, give the, some discretion as to what we want that payroll to look like?
So it's already set, we're tied for right now to what is in the budget for the elections administrator position. Now, it's just like with anything, if we want to amend that, if we think that there's a need to change that amount, the court can do that, we just have to amend the budget. I think my intent at this point, my recommendation would be, let's let the commission do its due diligence, its hiring process, its interview process, see what kind of candidates we get back at what we have now. And then if it turns out that we need to come back to the drawing board because we're not getting good candidates at that amount, or we don't find a suitable person, then come back and ask him.
You would advertise under the current budget.
Yes.
Yes.
And
You have to.
And Cheryl, you said right now there's currently a 2023 EA budget?
That is correct. We created.
I thought we had
We
created
We had,
one.
because when we did the budget last year, we were moving towards the EA, but it wasn't finalized, and then we pulled back. But we had already budgeted for that, so we have already budgeted 65,000 for the EA. The two other people in elections are paid out of that department, out of 490, and we have funded all the supplies that are needed. It's already funded. It's already
So,
budgeted.
Right now, there's a county clerk budget, there's an election budget, and there's an EA budget.
Well, the EA is the elections budget.
But that, all that is in the EA budget is just a salary spot
There's 3 salaries paid out of there, and then all their supplies.
that are separate from the elections right now.
It's
No.
all elections.
All elections,
Oh.
but
It's all elections, but it is separate from the county clerk's budget. So we have her budget that runs her office and elections that has anything to do with elections.
Y'all, and from the outsiders, y'all, but I think what y'all did with the last year was you created the apparatus to make this a turnkey thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Judge Gossam
Right.
created the apparatus to make it because
Right.
we never did have full discussions
Right.
surrounding the establishment or creation of.
Yeah, the elections folks used to be paid under the county clerk's budget, and when we went into 23, we moved them out and into elections under 490, so that if we did ever did the creations of the EA position to head that department, it was already in place to let you move
And
forward.
my memory I remember Judge Gossam saying something about some money being placed in 409 for elections. Do you remember that, Jeff?
Yeah, is
I
there
don't
some office
I don't-
furniture?
It seems like they put some money
set
into the
aside.
409 budget for EA.
Contingency money?
Yeah, but I don't
I don't know that
That's
we
just what
specified
memory is.
anything in 409 for that, but there is money available in 409 should we need to budget amend for either the higher salaries or outfitting of an office.
Well, hopefully, I mean,
But
what
the
I don't wanna
actual-
see, I don't wanna see a department created that has to hire more people, more expenses, and an ongoing deal.
Right.
I don't think we need to.
Yeah, we already have it funded for 2 people, are already in 490,
Yeah, I
we're
don't-
just
I don't-
missing the
I hate to
department
see
head.
it build up faster than we even know it's necessary.
Well, and that this court will have full discretion over that.
Right,
Well,
Because
it's-
just like any budget, any department, if a EA in the future wanted to come and say, you know what, I need 2 more people.
I need 6 people and I need an
That's-
but
assistant.
that's the
This court
same
makes
as
that
any,
decision.
as
Yeah.
any department, is that you can only hire as many positions as available, and if you need additional, you have to come to court and ask for it. And there's nothing that stops you guys every year from saying, you know what, we really don't think that, this department needs 10 people, we really think you only need 8. And you can cut those at any time, you can cut and add however you choose. Yes, it is harder to cut, later, but it can be
And
done.
our-
It's automatically gonna do what you're saying because we are taking a position that did get some help from the county clerk out of that end of the budget, I would assume, and now it's gonna be a standalone deal, so it's going to be,
One
it's gonna
thing-
automatically happen.
And one thing I have talked to our county clerk about that I see with this position, because I've been involved with it quite a bit, if we create that office, come voting time, what we don't wanna have to have is us hiring a lot of people when it's real busy season. And I had talked to the county clerk about that before. There needs to be some way that we can, maybe the county clerk's office, if need be, can still supply a person or 2. If, let's say it's just crazy because of a Trump, somebody election and things get real crazy busy.
Well,
And the
if
county
you go to
clerk said
registration
you
season
still
or
would be able
something
to
like
have,
that,
you'd
yeah.
still be able to recruit somebody from the county clerk's office to help out for those few days if need be. I'm just trying to figure out a way that you don't have to hire a bunch more people in that position. But as far as our voters in Wichita County, I think this helps show that we're very serious about wanting our elections to be done the best way we can.
Well, to me, it looks, the complexity of the election process and the scrutiny that's put on it is moving this to a standalone deal rather than a function of the county clerk's
part-time
office.
job.
And I'm not saying that's not you know, where it needs to be, because I think we have probably arrived. What's the preferred time frame on this?
So my recommendation to the court would be to, in the order, establish the effective date of the office is September 1.
Okay.
That, with the 90-day window leading up to that, that means essentially starting June 1st, the commission could hire someone. Now, I will say this, it is my full intention to ask the commission to do a full-blown, full-fledged, all guns-bearing search for the right candidate. This is a position, heck, we've seen with elections, this is a position we need to do everything in our power that we can to get right. And so that window, that time frame, Commissioner Mueller, would allow time for an extensive search, 6, 8, 10 weeks even. If it takes that long to find the right person, and then still bring them on in time to get spooled up, ready for November elections.
We have a
this year.
November and then,
Back to
well,
primaries.
presidential primary.
Right, and that's why that layout of that time frame would allow time to get ready for November,
Yeah.
which will be a big election.
Yeah.
But from a statewide standpoint, it's probably only going to be constitutional amendments, and then it'll be city
will be on,
elections.
yeah.
But that'll let them,
That would fit,
Get-
that would fit the cycle.
and
Yeah.
they'll get that one under their belt to be
Yeah.
ready for the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
which will be.
Well, that was my
primaries in March.
concern, I didn't wanna set it up where it wouldn't
Right.
mesh well.
Right.
And that
And-
would mesh the season, so.
And also,
It's just a
if we have an extensive search this summer, and either because of pay, because the commission doesn't feel comfortable with who's out there, who's applying, this still gives us time then, okay, this court can come in August, vote to abolish the position,
Move forward.
everything reverts back to the county clerk, and off we go. And I've had a discussion with our county clerk. She is going to, because it's still under her until whenever we make it effective, but she's going to be still getting up to speed and making sure she's on top of things, so that if it does revert back, we're not.
It's gonna take a special person to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not just,
With
they're
this-
not walking up and down the street every day that.
This
Judge,
people,
does the commission have to be
Created.
formalized?
Yes.
Yes.
Or-
So
It's about state law.
the commission. Yeah, we have to, there's a few things that have to happen if we do this quickly. The county clerk has to send the certified copy of our order to the Secretary of State and to each member of the commission. We don't have to do anything creating the commission. It happens by default if we choose to do this. Those people are set out in statute. We just have to notify them. And then once the commission takes action, there are requirements that have to be done formally, with signed copies of the resolution when they appoint the person and whatnot.
And Annette, tell me how, I know that last time, typically you didn't have to work that bailiwick all the time, but this last time you did, how were you paid for that?
How was I paid for it?
Yeah.
As far as,
Part of
To
her
work
duties.
elections? I know that you went
We
and
have-
did,
well, we have
before
to
you
build the
took
entities.
office, you went and worked elections, or you were helping with elections, but we already had 2 people in elections. How were you paid?
She's not paid
we were
separately.
paid, we were part of the same office.
He's talking about before she was elected.
Yeah, in 2022, that last election, you
I was-
helped Lori with that
I
election.
was still part of the county clerks. I fell under the county clerks. I was still an employee. I could work any area in that office.
So you only worked 40 hours a week and only paid for 40 hours a week, and if you had to work till 10
Right.
o'clock that night, no
And being chief
compensation.
deputy, I didn't get overtime. So I could work
She was an
40 hours.
exempt,
Okay.
so she did
But
not.
did any other girls ever help?
Yeah, they did help, but they.
How were
they
they
paid
paid?
to 5. They just were removed from their position, but they were moved to elections to work that part.
paid
So
out
that's
of
what
the
Mickey
county
was
clerk's
talking
budget.
about.
They were just redirected,
We just-
so instead of doing their county clerk duties, they were doing elections
Yeah.
instead.
So I think to your
That'd be,
point.
how were our precinct guys paid when they delivered the voting machines?
Well,
then
and
that's different.
that's something that's
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 different.
currently what I
That's
was
the same
talking about a
thing,
while
they're
ago.
still,
What I don't wanna see, I mean, I would hate to see us, I mean, we all have to work together as a county. Should we really take our precinct guys and make elections pay for 2 hours of their pay to go haul stuff?
no, it's.
I don't wanna see
it's-
that. I
no,
think we
it's
should-
what bureaucracy.
I think we should
for
work together as a
unnecessary.
county and try to make elections work, you know, but if you don't properly budget where that overtime's going, you can't learn for future budgets. So I think you do need to keep that time into account so you can see what's needed to work for a budget forward in elections.
Right, and that's just a time code thing where we can stick elections
Yeah.
in.
And I
Well,
noticed.
if we're doing overtime, yeah.
But
But any time that's worked over, no, it wouldn't be overtime generated there, but any time worked over 40 hours still generates
Well,
overtime.
it's part of the actual cost of the process, and we need to know what that is.
Yeah, and I think the more you document it, the more you can tell better in the future.
I agree.
But
Well-
like the county clerk, some of them clocked out, let's say at 5 o'clock, and then Lori had them clock back in at 7 for election stuff, or they might clock out at 5 and re-clock back in at 5 to be on election time. I think that would be smart if they got off from the clerk, clock out, and then clock in for elections.
Well, from 7 to 10, the county didn't pay for that. It was the party chairs, Democrat and Republican, that paid us.
on the
7 to
primary
10.
work.
The primary.
And if-
Well, yeah,
on
but
the
we still have
general-
to, that's what we,
Account from 5 to 7.
we
But if-
still have to account for that time because that's how we bill the
The entities.
Right.
entities.
It's just smart to document
Sure.
all that, to build, whoever the EA is or whatever, however we go, you need that documentation to be able to build a budget and see how it works.
But I guess my point is though, is that if, let's say 2 years from now, we're rocking along, and we got an EA, and she says, man, we gotta rock and roll, this is a general election coming up, and Annette, I'm gonna need, if I could, for this week, I need 5 people to help out from your office. She said, oh, I'm sorry, you know, we've got this now, grandiose software program we're putting in, and people can see this, and all my people are busy. And so, I mean, we're putting the onus on you to provide all this help, and I mean, that's not necessarily the case. So how do we know what kind of help was ever involved? In the election in 2020 or any general election, do you know how many county employees took to pull that off on a swinging day that
Not
was
the
really
same
hard?
thing, But I know there were several, because if something had to be done, that was priority over everything, which I think was wrong. That's the reason I think we need the EA, so
But-
special
right.
interests in elections, and concentrate on that.
And
because
to-
it
And
does
I'm
take away
assuming
from
that-
part of the
And
office.
to
so-
Mickey's point, if they're not actually clocking in like under the elections feature, at least on time code, we can't really track. We're only as good as the data we have, and when there is no data to know how many of those employees were working that, it's gonna take some time to build.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I brought that up, because right now you can't go back in time and tell from that office what was used. So that's why I think it's important that we,
And over half of the counties in Texas now have an elections administrator
yeah.
position. So there are, and most of the counties our size or bigger do. And so there are other data sets from other places that
Right.
we could
Mhm.
see what they're doing as well. And I think we can get there and do that.
But Jeff, to answer your question, I'm not gonna let that area, I mean, it's just because not under me doesn't mean I'm not gonna help. I will allow two employees to go
To
there,
help,
like,
whatever, just like we do on
Yes.
moving machines.
Yeah.
Because if
I'm
it
just
fails,
gonna
she
say-
gets it back.
I'm gonna say-
and I'm gonna tell you right now,
I'm gonna help all I can.
us as the commissioners wanna do everything we can to make the elections
Yeah,
right. Because we don't need another
We don't want
slap on the
records.
face like we've had
Right.
over the past year or two.
Well, and
This-
the AA should be able to stay on top of all of those requirements,
Right.
keeping things organized, answering ORRs, all of those complaints that got unheard. But the court can't enforce the county clerk to do those things.
Right.
That's.
But that commission can
But the commission
have oversight
can, and
over
if
that.
you have a person that's not wanting to answer the questions or keep things organized or whatever it is, they would just fire and replace them.
And it is, in every legislative session, this is one area that gets changed and
Changes all the
more
time.
more specific, and
Mhm.
I think it is too much for it to be part of somebody's
John.
instead of it to be its own.
Oh, yeah, it needs, I don't disagree with that.
And I don't see there being any less laws and oversight coming over that.
Wow. And we also
No.
avoid the whole topic of, well, you're up for election, but you're overseeing elections.
Yeah.
We have seen that.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So I'd make that motion, Judge, we move forward with creating the office or the county elections administrator position.
I
Effective
would-
September 1st?
Yes, sir.
I would like to see us wait and to be more prudent, to put this on a regular session instead of a Friday special session, since we're changing how we do elections.
How, I mean, we're a voting session.
Okay, that's fine.
It won't, I mean, to be honest, if we delay it, won't, I don't think that it'll affect anything, so if there's
I just-
heartburn about taking it today.
I mean, there's a motion on the floor, but
Yeah.
I'm just voicing my opinion that I think it'd be more prudent if we waited to a regular session. But that's not the motion on the floor. It's just my opinion.
Well, I'll second the motion.
Why are you, I don't understand the hesitation. It's posted, it's being
I
broadcast.
know it's posted and it's being broadcast, but this is out of our normal routine. And with the sensitivity of elections, I don't want it to appear that we just stuck it on a Friday session just to maybe go around controversy or whatever.
Well, we do have the media here.
I get that.
Yeah.
I just,
And I don't
Be
have a
fully-
problem.
be
I don't have a
fully
problem waiting, but
transparent.
That's what we need to do. I think I know
It's-
what I want to do. It just, yeah.
I
have a problem
don't
with it.
disagree with
In-
with this in concept.
Yeah.
I just think it's not a prudent day to
Okay.
vote on this.
Um,
That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, and in light of this thing's not happening in a vacuum, and
There won't be another voting meeting till when?
a week from Monday.
June
The
5th.
fifth.
June 5th.
June the 5th.
Well, and you know what, Mark, actually, that might make sense because we've got the 3-day deadline to deliver the certified copy of the letter. And doing that today is gonna mean a fairly quick turnaround because a weekend, and it's a holiday Monday, we can't get that. Okay, I think it might be prudent to wait, we'll put it on we won't take action on it today. We'll allow another session.
You'll have to ask for the motion to be pulled then, and
Mhm.
then we'll have to motion to table.
Yeah.
You can't even make that, the 3-day is what, you can't hit that window.
We could, it's just gonna be a quick turnaround this
And
afternoon.
it's not gonna hinder
No.
the deal. I mean, I don't mind waiting at all, Mark. I think you make a good point, as a matter of fact. And it's,
And I don't guess we're required to hold any public.
There's not any requirement
Yeah.
in the statute that's there or not. So, Jeff, do you wanna
Sure.
pull down your motion? Okay.
Yes, and just if when you place it on the next voting session, which would be
fifth.
June
the
5th.
5th.
And I'll second the motion to table till the next voting session.
Okay.
I don't think that's gonna hamper our timeline or
It
ability
won't.
to get it done. I don't have a problem with that at all.
Okay, so the motion before us right now is the motion by Commissioner Watts to table the motion on the creation of the elections administrator position. And that motion to table was seconded by Commissioner Beecham. Do we have any public comment on the motion to table? Okay, so the motion before us, just to be clear, is the motion to table, the motion to create the position. All those in favor of the motion to table, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you all for the discussion on that, that topic, and we'll look forward to.
Thanks, Annette.
See you Monday.
Speaking of cable,
So we've got one final thing, general business item number 5, receive update on courthouse renovation, elevator projects, and county courthouse.
Elevator inspection set for Thursday. That's the big item, so hopefully we'll get past that. Temporary courtroom's moving really quick. We've encountered some difficulties at the annex with constructability, so we've made some changes. I think it's a net zero change as far as budget wise. Just some of the changes in the ceiling plan because of structural elements that were different than once we got everything opened up. So we'll have some PRs, but I think they're net zero. They should be net zero the way we addressed it, so. I don't know what else has changed since Monday, not much.
Was there a problem with the elevator over in the annex?
It's still out.
They worked on it, they should have had it. I was on the phone with Rick this morning when he was visiting with TK, they were there and should
I
have
don't
it
know,
working.
it was still out when I came over, so
That's the new elevator, right?
that would be
Okay,
correct.
check.
Yeah, I believe it's working now. I don't know what they found.
part of the county aerobics plan.
That's what I said, it's part of our wellness.
Help the county.
We did have
3 flights of stairs.
an air conditioning issue with the constable's office that they disconnected them from the main trunk as part of the construction, and they're getting that resolved because we did spend extra to make sure all the offices were serviced correctly, but for whatever reason they were cut loose. Beyond that, I don't know what else we've accomplished since Monday.
A lot of work.
A lot.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody have any questions or public comment on this item? Okay. Wish everybody a good Memorial Day. Just as a public service announcement, with the courthouse being closed on Monday, we will not have court, and we will not have court on Tuesday. So next time we will meet will be next Friday for a working session, and then we'll get back on the normal schedule on Monday. All right, it is